Looks like we're good, Larry.
I think so, yeah.
I will officially call the meeting to order. The regular meeting of the village board on Monday, December 20th, 2021. We have two special guests today, County Executive George Latimer and Ellen Hendricks, who I believe she has a new role now. So I don't want to screw it up. So I'll maybe let her tell us what she's doing. But
Yep.
She used to be the governmental affairs woman and a million other things. She's just a great friend of the village, and she's one of my go-to people. And she told me I could still go to her, even though she has a new role now. So thanks for that, Alan.
Okay, and George should be joining.
So maybe Ellen can tell us about her new role while we wait for George.
He's here. So, here
Oh, perfect. So she doesn't have a lot of time.
There we go.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Ellen.
Well, my new role in the county or my new role?
Either one, both. Why not both?
Well, I was promoted to director of research. So we'll be really zeroing in on public policy and trying to give more depth to any of the initiatives that the county executive wishes to pursue. And I will take office in Greenberg in another couple of weeks. So here's the county executive. May I make way for George?
Good evening, George.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Mayor, friends. How are you tonight?
Great, thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm good. This is the last night of house arrest. And I'm sure you all know the Shawshank Redemption. I have drilled a hole through the wall. I've hidden it with a picture of Rita Hayworth. And I plan to go down through the sewer pipe and out.
Nice. It's going to be a big Tuesday.
But to White Plains instead of Mexico, right?
Right. Well, Mitchell, it would be nice if it was Mexico right now. But appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. And I should officially introduce Ellen as Director of Research, which is a new component that we've created in our executive team to be able to analyze issues for us that fall outside of one particular department or another. And she did a great job as Assistant Director of Intergovernmental Actions. And because she is a town councilwoman elect, her involvement with the villages of Greenberg will continue in that role. But with research, and she will identify projects, maybe some that are helpful to the village, when we think we want to try to get a handle on a public policy issue, that her and Bessie Schachter, who will be the assistant director, will be able to get some resources and tackle it and come back with information that could be helpful to us at our level of government, your level of government, or whatever.
Great. Well, she's been, our main contact with the county. So she told me I didn't have to give her up. So it works out well for me that she got promoted. And I always know she's just a text or a phone call away. So it actually made me feel good when she wasn't completely moving to something, unrelated. And she said, no, I'd be happy to. So
That's good. We've got a lot of Greenberg folks in a variety of positions of authority. Steve Bass is still our head director of intergovernmental services. Sherry Asher, who's now a village trustee next door in Dobbs Ferry, continues to be director of program and policy, working with chambers of commerces and certain other targeted small business groups. So there's a backyard presence that you can tap anytime.
absolutely. And it's been a great working relationship. And we said, each time you come on, I think that's one of the silver linings of the pandemic is we, really kind of forced to work closely with the county. But I don't see that going away. And I think it's only going to make, both the county and the local governments better. So if we can find a silver lining to all this, that's one of them for sure.
And we appreciate your partnership and friendship as we go through these different issues. And I had a couple of things I wanted to cover. Do I wait until you say go, or how do you want to proceed?
Go. Whatever you want to do it, George.
Very good.
I think the only thing I promised Ellen was I would get you on early so you could get off early. So, but
Yep.
the floor is yours.
I appreciate that. Well, we wanted to visit, first of all, because clearly we've had an explosion in COVID cases. and we wanted to lay out a couple of things about how we're going to try to deal with it as best as we can. This pandemic continues to be a roller coaster ride, rivals the Dragon Coaster, and we're up and we're down, and then we're back up again. Right now, without seeing today's numbers, as of yesterday, we had 7,462 active cases. That's the number of people like myself who tested positive and haven't yet gone through the 10-day or 2-week period. I'm almost out of my period. Ken Jenkins tested positive. Catherine Parker, county legislator, is positive, and Tom Roach, the mayor of White Plains. Not all from the same place, but this is now becoming sort of widespread. Some of you may have had it already, and hopefully you don't have it again. But to give you perspective, if the number is 7,462 right now, where we were a week ago was 4,868. So we've jumped up 2,800 cases in the space of a handful of days. We're getting new, and we're pretty sure it's Omicron. We're getting a new number of cases that are almost 1,000 a day for the last few days. And that's concerning. If there is good news, even though the infection rate is high, 7% infection rate out of everybody tested, the number of hospitalizations have stayed proportionately low. We're up to 134 people hospitalized right now. That's up 100 from where we were a month ago. But in terms of the increase in active cases, the increase in hospitalizations has not hit the same, level. And that's good. So that means people are getting it, like myself, who are not suffering terribly. I had personally no trouble breathing, no flu-like symptoms, nothing that would represent a real serious illness, much less something that would take us to the hospital. And in fatalities, every fatality is a tragedy. We've lost 9 people over the last week, and that's higher than we've seen recently, but it's nothing like what we had in our peak period when the original explosion happened. And we had a night where we lost 75 people in Westchester County in one night, and it followed up with 40 people dying the next night. It was incredible. Some of that is happening now in other parts of the state, but not here. So in our response to all of this, a few things apply. First of all, the governor put in a mask mandate, but left it up to local counties in terms of enforcing it. And our first phase is really to try to implement it, not enforce it. And we're going to make available to the village, to businesses in the village, not-for-profits and churches, a supply of masks so that every one of these entities can have them available when anybody walks in and from a public contact standpoint into a retail business, restaurant, church, whatever, that they'll have masks available at free of charge. We probably have about 500,000 masks, and we're going to distribute them across the county. So to the extent that you get some information directly on how the village will get a share of those, and then your businesses are going to share through the Chamber of Commerce and your religious institutions and your not-for-profits. And then also there'll be some signage, which you can download and put up in a prominent place. It'll be standardized signage we got from the state so that everybody knows that the requirement exists. And it's very simple at the outset. Somebody walks in without a mask, please wear a mask. We have a mask available for you. We have a mandate from the governor. We're not looking to get into fistfights over it. Well, there'll be a portal to report businesses that are not making the effort. But we're going to try very hard to make an effort to get more people masked. Not because it's a way of life, not because it's a political statement. It's just meant to be a way to reduce the amount of spread. Masks and vaccinations do not ensure that we will never get the disease. It just makes it less likely. And less likely right now is what we're striving for. So we're going to be putting that out. We have gotten a commitment from the state to provide us with an additional 35,000 test kits. We've told the state we're prepared to reopen the county center for testing purposes to try to relieve some of the burden off of all these urgent care centers that have been swamped over the last number of days. People are trying to get tested in anticipation of the holidays, their travel, with people coming in from out of town. And then also just, the increase in the virus. It's everywhere. And so people want to know, am I safe? Am I, affected or not affected? So we're prepared to reopen the county center. We also offered to the state that we would reopen the drive-in scenario at Glen Island if that's necessary. What you have right now and what you saw over the weekend and maybe slightly before the weekend with these long lines waiting to get tested is these locations, these urgent care facilities don't have enough test kits. They don't have enough people. And their physical location is not really big enough to handle the kind of demand that comes at a moment like this. That's why we had those mass testing locations where you could accommodate holding 100 people inside the building, waiting for the chance to be tested, rather than standing outside in the cold and the rain, waiting to get in one at a time. So we're going to try to address that with the help of the state. We don't generate the kits. The kits come to us from the state and I guess from the feds. So we're trying to do what we can. But the kits also, for our purposes, have to go to those people who are poor, who are indigent. So we're using the conduit of the healthcare centers, Greenberg Health Center, Open Door Centers, which are in some of the other Rivertown communities, to be able to provide those for those who are indigent. And for those of us who have some resources, who can have the test paid for by our insurance plan or what have you, just to make sure that there's more product available at these various urgent care centers and medical practices and so forth. And that's what we've been urging the state to do, to go along with that. We've made the decision to have all of our county boards and commissions go to virtual status between now and the end of January. It's exactly what you're doing tonight. Some elected boards are doing it, some are not. I credit you for going virtual. And we're going to try to, there's no mandate to do it, but a little later tonight, Ardsley is virtual. The Ardsley Library Board is virtual. So I think as much as we want to be with each other in person, it's a better way to operate life. Right now, this thing is so damn transmissible that if we put ourselves in each other's close quarters, the chances of one of us or a bunch of us getting it is much higher. So we're going to try to avoid that if we can. I know this is not the time of year you want to do a holiday party virtually. So I think what we've tried to do in a number of cases is postpone our holiday parties from a year-end holiday party to a year-beginning holiday party, either in late June or January or maybe in February. Make it a Lunar New Year party. It's the same basic attitude, to be festive with our senior citizens or to be festive with one of our operating departments, but not at the risk of infecting people. So that's part of what we're trying to do as well to deal with this. We're working on lots of vaccine delivery. We're working with school districts to set up satellite clinics in various school buildings to do that. We're going to be in Sleepy Hollow Middle School or High School tomorrow and Wednesday with vaccinations in that area. And we'll be in other different places, around the area. And we're hopeful that the more of the young people that get vaccinated, I think right now, still a fraction between the county's between the medical center and all of our satellites, are probably vaccinated just shy of 5,000, which is a small percentage, but we're trying to catch up as we can. The general vaccination numbers in the county, 94% of adults have gotten at least one shot, 83% have gotten two shots. I don't have the numbers for third shot boosters. Most everybody understands that the booster shot is now necessary for better protection. But even with the booster, there's no automatic guarantee that you won't get the disease because it's so communicable at this stage of the game. But it protects you again from the severity of the disease. So we're trying to work on all of that to give you some idea of where we are with COVID. The other point I wanted to mention, and then I'm happy, Mr. Mayor, to have an answer any questions you may have. The other point to mention, and I know Mary Jane Shimsky, your county legislator, can cover this in some detail as a follow-up, is the 2022 county budget is in place. It was adopted by the Board of Legislators unanimously last week. The budget's a $2.2 billion budget. It cuts property taxes for the deepest level that we've had in 10 years. It's a $7 million property tax levy cut. As a percentage, it's not large, but the last 2 years, you've had a reduction as a Greenberg town resident. You've had a reduction in your taxes a little bit from the county level, just to, a percent here and a percent there. But we cut $1 million off of it. So this year there should be a deeper tax cut. Now, for anybody who pays property taxes, let's just say for the sake of argument, you pay $20,000, you live in Irvington, you pay $20,000 in property taxes. You're probably paying 13 to 14 of it to the school district. And then of the remaining round number 6,000 that you're paying in taxes, about half of that goes to the county and half of it goes to the combination of the village and the town. And if you live in the village, if you live outside the village, then it's all town. And the county may be slightly more than the town village combination, but together town, village, county is a third. So if we're cutting a couple of percentage points off our number for the third straight year, it helps. It doesn't give you enough money to go whole hog for a big steak dinner, but it does give you the sense that we're moving in the right direction, not the wrong direction. And of course, by sharing back sales tax money, you know your numbers better than I would. We've been able to share back some revenue to the village, which I assume helps you with your budget. Now, your budget's going to come, I guess, in the spring, but when it does come, hopefully it's benefited by some of that additional revenue. So with those two bullets, the county budget in place, there's some other elements of the budget and how we're responding on COVID. Just want to give you a quick update. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. And without having to physically pull out a hook, I'm happy to exit stage left as well. I don't know if I touched all the things that Ellen wanted me to cover. Ellen, did I miss anything that was important? We can't hear you. You got to unmute.
No, I don't really have anything to add other than the fact that I got a pop-up, others may have, that Omicron accounts for nearly 3/4 of the new US cases. So, and we know that it's far more transmissible. So care is really important. And if you would like masks, please reach out to Copper and he will arrange for you to pick up a certain amount of masks. And as George mentioned, Sherry is reaching out to the chambers. So that's it.
Yeah, no, I think we've seen I was just looking at the numbers today. Our biggest month ever was January of 2021. We had 87 cases in Irvington. This month we already have 71 and 43 in the last 5 days. So we can really see how, we're a microcosm of what's going on in the county, in the state, and the country. So it is highly transmissible. I think the anecdotal evidence is that it's less serious or less severe. I think a lot of that is that people are vaccinated and, people are still getting boosters. And that's the only other thing I wanted to say is that I had an unbelievably great experience. My wife and I, we went over to the county health department to get our boosters. And it was efficient. They were courteous. They were friendly. They joked around. They made fun of my paper cards. I don't even have a real CDC card. So they mocked me a bit, but it was good-hearted mocking. But I just wanted to, let the both of you know that, the county health department, at least by me and my wife and I, they did a great job. So it was very impressive. People, they were all in really good spirits, which to me, I have to imagine that gets dreary, but they were actually all, it was a very pleasant experience. So if people are looking for that,
Good.
They can go to the county health department website and try to make an appointment for their boosters as well. So that was, I found it was a really good experience. I don't really have any questions, and I know you probably have a million other things to do, but if anyone on the board has any questions, or Larry or Marianne or Brenda, feel free. Otherwise, we'll just reach out to Ellen going forward.
Copper. I did want to welcome aboard the new members of the board of the congratulations, and I'm sure that it's been a great immersion over the last few weeks.
Great, but again, anytime, don't hesitate. Anytime either of you would like to pop by and share some thoughts, you're always more than welcome. Otherwise, thanks again for your help throughout all of this, and hope you both have a great Christmas, happy holidays, and a great new year.
Thank you. Wish you all a Merry Christmas. Happy Joyce Kwanzaa. Happy New Year. Festivus for the rest of us if you're a Seinfeld fan. And I'll probably see at least some of you at the Great Irvington Farmers Market one of these Sundays. I try to get by there. They've got a lot of good stuff there. It's the best of the Sunday farmers markets around. So I endorse the Irvington Farmers Market. I've seen Mitchell there already in the warm weather. So.
Great. Well, thanks again. Continue to feel better, George, and enjoy your freedom tomorrow.
Thanks a lot, guys. You have a great night and a good holiday.
Thanks very much.
Bye now.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, I the numbers are kind of scary the way they're exploding right now. It's, I think the good thing is the severity doesn't seem that bad, but I'm just afraid that with the holidays, that things are just, the numbers are, I was a little sobered by the numbers in Irvington because we had been so low. Like back in, was it May and June, we had 4 cases for the entire month. So, December's been, and it fits with the anecdotal evidence, the amount of people I know that have tested positive or are awaiting tests, or it just seems like it's, it's just not great. So I hope everyone's taking all the precautions they can, getting vaxxed if they haven't, getting their booster, wearing a mask, avoiding, large indoor gatherings, all those types of good things. Moving on to announcements. There's one announcement on the agenda, which is a check of over $25,000. That was to Schultz Ford. That was for a police utility interceptor all-wheel drive hybrid. That was from the general fund for an amount of $37,889.27. My only other announcement was to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and wish everyone a healthy and happy 2022. We didn't have anyone else have any other announcements they'd like to make at the top of the meeting? We didn't have any correspondence, so we will open it up for public comments at this time. A couple people have their hand up. Peter Bernstein, we'll have him lead off.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
We can. How are you?
Great. Happy holidays to you all. Nice to see the new faces on the board. Just before I make a broad comment, I do want to, this time of year is I always feel especially grateful to be living in such a great place that, you guys take such good care of. But particularly, I want to give a shout out to the DPW guys. They just do such a great job. And especially now, winter's coming, the snow's going to come. I know those guys are going to be out there, keeping us safe and the roads, clear. So I just wanted to express my appreciation on that. But the reason why I got on the call was I know it wasn't on the agenda. Maybe it was on an earlier draft. As you guys develop your 2022 priorities, I would encourage you to continue on your focus on the affordable housing issue. The village made some progress, last year with the zoning and also your resolution. And, I know there's, some items on the agenda tonight about land use of village-owned property. I think as we go forward, inventorying of public property, village, county, state-owned property in the area, nonprofit properties, to look for, where are good spots for affordable housing development. I'd encourage you to, do that. Where the infrastructure bill has money in it. Hopefully Build Back Better has money in it. We may actually be able to, get some assistance. I had mentioned to Deb Flock the possibility of approaching the nonprofit landowners of their willingness to part with a piece of their property that might be appropriate for affordable housing development, and she seemed enthusiastic about that. So that's a suggestion I think the board could take up as you develop your plans for 2022. So that's just my encouragement. Thanks for what you've done so far, and just hoping affordable housing crisis is just making the connection. Wouldn't it be great if our DPW guys could afford to stay and live in Irvington, and their future village employees could afford to live in Irvington. So thank you. Enjoy the holidays, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Peter. Michael Hanna.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good. Yeah, so similarly, welcome new trustees, and thank you for your continuing service to our mayor and continuing trustees, and to the village staff. You guys are doing great work, and coming off of a lot of progress last year, and I'm sure going forward, there's a lot you'll accomplish. I just want to jump in. Echo everything Peter said. I think those were great comments. I'm also really happy about some of the things on your agenda tonight in terms of the agreement that you're looking to approve with the village. With the school district. Sorry, of the project at Main Street School, the memorial for done by Vinnie Bagwell. I think that's a fantastic project, and it's great that you are working with the district. Also, the really excited about your conversation about renaming the area in front of the Village Hall as Madam C.J. Walker Plaza. I have some personal experience with this. I accidentally misheard some information a year or two ago and asked on Facebook, which I know is not the place to find out information from the village now, but got some feedback from folks about the idea of a Madam C.J. Walker Plaza, and it was a very, very popular post. I think it had 300 or 400 comments, overall extremely supportive of the concept. So it's great that you're leading that discussion now, and I think it'll be very well received. There's always a couple of folks who have questions or concerns, but just the numbers there were so overwhelmingly positive. I was very impressed. So I'm excited that you're doing that. And then I just had one question, which is around the Firehouse expansion study that might have been discussed at earlier meetings. I'm just starting to learn about it here, so I look forward to that conversation. Clearly, whether we were talking about the Firehouse, the DPW, the police department, village services, are in pretty historic but old and probably not up to code structures in many cases. So I'm sure you're looking at that aspect. One of my questions that I look forward to hearing addressed is whether it's in expansion that means that it's really the focus is right there on Main Street, or whether there's a possibility of continuing to look at options elsewhere. Particularly, just Main Street seems so tight for all these vehicles of those different services, and particularly for the large fire trucks. So is Broadway ever under consideration, and whether that could be part of the study was my question.
Okay, yeah, and I think it was in the original study, they looked at alternative locations. I think that we've kind of, obviously we purchased the building next to the current firehouse, which was, part of the plan. But I think if they recommended something completely different, we definitely listen. But I think that was, but that acquisition was part of the original plan of, we need more room there if we can do it here. We had looked at other sites, but a lot of the land acquisition costs were prohibitive. So, and one of the non-for-profits that we reached out to that had a considerable amount of land was not open to working with us on it. So we kind of didn't go very far, just because the places we identified weren't necessarily economically viable to the village.
I just wonder, now that you have this significant amount of property in the downtown area, which seems like it's these days, based on the shifting property values, the increase on the Main Street area, whether that's at all interesting for some sort of swap with some of those same parties that you've talked about. I don't know if that sort of aspect was considered in terms of the opportunity for having development opportunities on Main Street and Astor Street, even if there was that larger perspective, rather than just a straight up acquisition.
So it's something we've considered, but I think all the stars would have to align to make it kind of work in the near term anyway.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to ask a question.
Sure. Tom Thacker.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you can see me. I can see you. I'm in COVID protocol right now, so I have a mask on. But in any case, happy holidays to everybody, and welcome Mitchell and Arlene, and thank you to the rest of the trustees for all of your service this past year. I wrote a letter. It didn't make it into correspondence because Larry was out. I don't really want to reprise it, and it's kind of a small bore parochial issue, but I'd like the board to consider sometime in the future, perhaps having Mark Gilliland, Trustee Gilliland, and Mary Ann, the village attorney, and the tree commission kind of put their heads together to address the issue that I brought up in the letter, which really has to do with village rights, but also homeowners' rights regarding village-owned trees. And I was in a situation just a few weeks ago where a neighbor behind me said, "Hey, would you mind if I brought somebody in to, trim the tree in your backyard because it's obstructing our view of the river?" And I said, "Sure." And then when I did the same with the tree commission, they said, "Absolutely not." So, and so, I don't want to waste your precious time or the precious time of other people who are listening tonight, but I'd just like if you might consider taking up that issue.
Tom, I just have to say, to clarify what you just said, the tree you were trying to get pruned, the tree commission would not approve is a village street tree. So that's much different than a tree on private property. Just to be clear to the rest of the board, that when the topic comes up, it is about village-owned street trees.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I think my letter made it clear what the issue is. So hopefully somebody somehow can take this up at some point, and it's a very minor issue in relationship to all the other things that are going on. So thank you for your time.
Great, thanks, Tom. Feel better. Lisa again.
Hello, good evening, everybody, and happy holidays. And I want to join some of the other callers, actually all the other callers, I think, in welcoming Arlene and Mitch, both very dear faces to see on the screen. I'm really excited for you to be joining this board and excited to continue to work with you guys in the years to come, and also happy to see returning trustees and to continue to work with you guys as well. I also wanted to bring up a couple of points. One, to just celebrate the two items that Michael and others have mentioned, the work with the school district around Vinnie's sculpture. As some of you know, I've been very involved with Commemorate for a couple of years now. It's been so much effort on so many people's parts to get as far as we have, and it's just like every milestone that we see now is just incredibly exciting. So on my own behalf, and I'm sure other Commemorate folks will agree with me, that we're super excited that you're taking this step. And I was also I did not know until recently about the Madam C.J. Walker Plaza renaming, and I'm especially excited to see that as well, because I think those two, the monument and that renaming are just going to provide like such a rich and textured and layered experience of thinking about Black history in Irvington. I don't like to say that because I think Black history is also all of our history, but to the extent that's a relevant term, I think that's going to create a much more nuanced story for all of us to engage with. So that's wonderful. And then the last thing I want to mention, I don't have definitely the level of, sort of insight that Michael shared or Peter about the affordable housing piece, but I just wanted to commend the board again for passing the resolution last year. Those of us who have been advocating for affordable housing are really excited to see the board take that step. And I hope that this board continues to think about, maybe doing a new study in case the other studies were less recent or approaches to the nonprofits were less recent, to really center the need for affordable housing and to continue to look at every available option to bring affordable housing to Irvington, which is so desperately needed. So thank you for your leadership on this issue so far, and looking forward to working with you and helping in any way that I can. Thanks again, and happy holidays.
Great, happy holidays. Thank you. Looks like that's it for hands for now, Larry. So I will move on to the consent agenda. Anyone have any questions? There was a lot of minutes because we had our annual meeting, but I think that was almost every word that was said, because some of those were just resolutions with votes. But if there aren't any questions, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And the next up is the approval of a memorandum of agreement with the Irvington Police Association. Larry, did you want to give us some context here?
Sure. Yeah. So the Irvington Police Association that represents the uniformed police officers in Irvington, their contract expired on May 31st of this year, 2021. And we did commence negotiations over the summer. The negotiations were a little bit different than they have been in the past, in that I worked pretty much exclusively with the PVA president, John Nairati, and we together hammered out the framework of an agreement. It took a few more months after that to reduce it to writing and to get all the the I's dotted and the T's crossed, but we ultimately got there. And, I was obviously checking back with the board throughout the process, and they were checking back with their members. And I think we got to a place where we wanted to be. The agreement is a 5-year agreement. The first 3 years are essentially locked in. The last 2 years, either side can opt out of the salary increases only for those years. Part of the reasoning behind doing it that way is that we both recognize that we were negotiating during a period of changing inflation, inflation that was maybe benign, that changed to transitory, that changed to maybe not transitory. It's kind of run the gamut. So there's a lot of uncertainty over that. And I think the thought of doing a straight 5-year agreement, trying to project out, what things might be like 3+, 4+ years from now was difficult. So we agreed on this structure. The basic terms of the agreement, and there are very few terms that were changed in the contract, which is why it went fairly quickly, is a salary increases for the first 3 years of 2.5% per year. And the final 2 years of the agreement are 2.75% each year, for a total of 5 years. So again, either side can opt out of those last 2 years with the proper notice. There was a relatively minor change in the amount of longevity pay that they receive. A certain tenured individuals would receive, people in excess of 15 years of service would get a 0.25% bump in their longevity payment, and then another 0.25% in year 4, which is not subject to the opt-out. And then we had a little restructuring of their the uniform allowance and the education allowance that's paid in the way that that money is paid out. Nothing terribly major, a slight reduction in how much is paid, but a little different in how it's paid out. And that's basically it. So we were notified, as you saw in the agenda, that the agreement has been ratified by the Police Association, and now the ball's in your court.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank you, Larry, and John Nairati for working on this so diligently. I think in the past, when our lawyers got involved, it got a lot murkier. I think we typically were able to agree quickly on economic terms and the basic terms, and typically the ones that were easy to understand. And then the trickier ones were the subtle ones about work practices and things like that. So I'm glad we've kind of worked through all those issues. I'm really happy to, have only been out of contract for a short period of time, and frankly, we were working on it the whole time. So, and it felt like we were weeks away for a few months, but I was glad to finally get this done. I think it's a very fair contract. I think the PBA was very fair. I hope they thought we were fair as well in our negotiations. I hope it's a contract that makes them, feel appreciated, because I think we all really appreciate all the hard work that they put in for the village. And I think it's a great job, and I think that they do a great job. So, I'm super happy that we're getting this, done before year end. And we can, have some certainty for the next 3 years. And the idea of a 5-year contract, I think, is great. And I think it was a pretty elegant way to, acknowledge that the inflation rate is, for the first time since anyone can really remember, an issue. So it kind of gives both of us as well as, the uncertainty with freaking COVID and everything else, that, we both have kind of the optionality if things go south, or something, for the village, or, if inflation stays at 7, 8, 9%, they have the option as well. So, I think it was a great job all around. Again, really want to thank John Nairati and the rest of the negotiating team from the PBA side, and, anxious to get this done.
I would just say, echoing what Brian said, I think it's a compliment both to to our village staff, and to the PBA leadership. And I also think it's showing a vote of confidence by the rank and file in the leadership that we have in our department, and hopefully in their view of what's gone on over the course of the past year and in the future, in terms of relationship between the board, the village, and the police department. And I think the idea that we're looking for, labor peace over an extended period of time, I think again is a vote of confidence by lots of people for lots of reasons.
Anyone else have any comments? Otherwise, I'll happily read the resolution. Resolved to approve a memorandum of agreement dated December 8th, 2021, in settlement of a collective bargaining agreement with the Irvington Police Association with a term of June 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2026. I will make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So Larry, I know I already signed it. Do we have to do anything else operationally, or we're good?
No, we're good. We'll take it from
Excellent.
here.
Excellent. Well, thanks again to everyone involved, and I'm glad we saved some lawyer time on both sides, I think, this time around. So
We did.
next up is authorization to approve change order number 1 for the theater HVAC study. Let you lead us out on this
Yeah.
one, Larry.
Yeah, so this is a change order. This is the engineer design firm that's working on the HVAC system, as you said. The change order is for $5,400. It relates to some issues that they encountered with the skylight, something that wasn't in their original proposal. There's some specialties that they have to work on with the skylight, and a little bit of the historic dealing with SHPO, although I don't expect that to be too much of an issue. But this is an add-on to their contract.
No one has any questions. Resolved to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $5,400 and to authorize the village administrator to execute said change order. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next up is approval of the 2021-2022 snow and ice supplemental agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation.
So another fairly routine agreement. So this agreement is the agreement that covers and essentially requires us to maintain Broadway on behalf of New York State. It's a state road. It's their responsibility, but the way they handle that particular state road is they farm it out to the local municipalities to handle, and then we get reimbursed based upon a fairly complicated formula that has to do with how much it snows and how many miles of lanes we have in Irvington, et cetera. So this is just a renewal for the upcoming season, nothing too unusual.
Great. Whereas the Village of Irvington and the New York State Department of Transportation have entered into an agreement providing for the village's removal of snow and ice from North and South Broadway. Now therefore be it resolved to approve the 2021-2022 snow and ice supplemental agreement between the Village of Irvington and the New York State Department of Transportation, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next up is an intermunicipal agreement with the Irvington Union Free School District regarding the proposed enslaved African statue.
Okay, so well, as you heard from some of the public comment, the village agreed in principle prior to this to take on the maintenance of the statue that's going to be installed on school property. So this encompasses essentially that transaction. The school is allowing the statue to be placed there, and the village will maintain it on the basis that the village has other statues and monuments that we maintain, and school district for some reason thinks we're good at it because of that. So, but no, it's something we've done. We obviously handle already, so we'll keep handling that for this new statue.
Yeah, I think the Rip Van Winkle statue is kind of what we pointed to as our test case on how much maintenance would be required and how much time and how much, it turns out that there's frankly not that much maintenance, but what needs to be done, we will take care of.
Yep.
So I guess, what my concern is, and I don't know, maybe that is a test case, but, this is the sculpture / base relief that's coming in is a little bit more complex in terms of materiality than the single bronze of the Rip Van Winkle. I'm just concerned not about general maintenance, but what happens if there's a damage somehow to the sculpture? Is the village on the, basically putting itself in line for that level of maintenance, or is it just normal and a custom maintenance? And that would be directed more at Larry, I guess, or Mary Ann for interpretation of what maintenance means.
Yeah, I'd have to, Mary Ann, I don't recall the actual language and where that landed as far as responsibility to cover it. You need to unmute.
I'm sorry to say it's so long ago that I drafted it. I don't even remember it. I think it was this summer. Let me, you know what, Mark, let me look for it in the documents. Let me take a look, okay? I don't remember a distinction. I mean, as I recall, it was just maintenance, and I don't think there was a distinction.
I think just the statute is granite and bronze. So I think that the maintenance, I think, would just be general care. I don't know, Mark, if you're asking if there's like damage to the statute, which I would assume would be covered by insurance, not the maintenance.
I mean, the only thing I read really was just that, the things like working on restoring the patina, periodically waxing the bronze portion, that's what they've been doing to Rip. But because you've got multiple materials put together, and because it's not firmly, I don't know how it's affixed to the wall, or I'm not sure the mechanics of it, but is it possible that it could be tipped over by vandals, for instance? I do not know. So I don't want us to go in blindly to be responsible for that level of.
I know fairly a lot about it.
Huh?
I actually know a lot about it. So there's a deep footing. It's not on the wall. It's a deep footing that goes into the ground. And I forget the name of the company, the excavating company, Tom Bucci. There it goes. So they've already looked at it. I'm like, how could I forget that name? I see it everywhere. But so the tipping over issue is really in the footing that's well into the ground. But I think from the maintenance portion, it's granite, which is easily cleanable, and the bronze piece would be just like Rip Van Winkle, right? I think it's once a year, Vinny said. But the other issue is vandalism, right? That's
what I'm worried. That's what I'm worried about.
To me, that's like insurance. That's an insurance question.
And we're both required to carry insurance. Right. So I have a feeling that the agreement kind of punts on that.
Well, here it says that the village will maintain the statue as required to keep it in a safe and presentable condition. I mean, actually, that could be read pretty broadly to cover, fixing it up. But I don't know, Marlene, whether you've got a better idea of what the insurance would be on it.
I would think whatever Larry would, right? That's a question for Larry.
Yeah, we routinely carry riders on those types of pieces of property. So things can happen. They're sitting out in the open. But we have insurance, and
I would think the insurance would. I would think the insurance would would cover it. You might want to just to double check, make sure that it's covered, you know, that it's covered by the insurance, you know what I mean? Let the insurance company know that we now have responsibility for this statute. So it would, you know, they're on notice that you'd be cut.
I think those are the types of things, we'll double check, of course, but I think those
Yeah.
are the types of things that are covered by our inland marine policy.
And I also know that the question of vandalism did come up at the school board hearings for this. And it was, as Peter Bernstein said, Vinnie Bagwell, who's the sculptor, told the school board it's pretty indestructible. You know, so I think it's made, you know, to, you know, it's not going to be an easy thing to damage.
But let's say somebody, you know, spray painted some stuff on it, you know, then I think it would, you know, under the way it's worded, you've got to keep it in presentable position.
Yeah.
Conditions, so you'd have to
That's pretty,
clean it up.
that's pretty clean. That's a common issue, right? With, I think, public spaces, graffiti, but I think one of the things the other things that Vinnie said on the school board meeting is that she has several statues all over, and including Ella Fitzgerald in Yonkers. And I think it's only been, you know, damaged, let's say, once in 25 years. And so it's just not something that is common. I mean, the statue is gonna, I mean, it's right next to Rip Van Winkle, next to Village Hall, next, you know, pretty visible place next to the police, right? So it's in a pretty good location to not be vandalized.
I can contact our insurance carrier. That's something that comes under my area, basically, to inform them of any new acquisitions. So
Yeah.
let me inquire.
That's what I was getting at before.
Exactly. And then I can, you know, forward to them this memorandum, this intermunicipal agreement, and describe where it's being located, that it's not actually on village property, and just have them aware. But things like that are itemized on our policy, like the large monument on West Sunnyside Lane, that's on that had damage, and that was on our policy, it was taken care of. So I will make the inquiry to them directly. Follow up.
Yeah, that's good. I just wanted to have that discussion so we're clear that we've got insurance coverage, and because, you know, God forbid it becomes a magnet for any sort of bizarre, you know, activity, but it's possible in today's world.
Great. So I think we're good to go ahead. Brenda will reach out.
Yeah.
Resolve to authorize the village administrator to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the Irvington Union Free School District regarding the maintenance of an enslaved African statue located at the Main Street School. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Can I just ask, does anyone know the value of the sculpture approximately?
The value of the contract is like $44,000.
Great, thanks.
Next is approval of the agreement with Sullivan Architecture for the Firehouse expansion study.
So, Mayor, to take up a little bit more of an explanation about this quote unquote project. This was a topic that had been studied probably 6 or 7 years ago. The study identified a variety of alternatives, including expanding the firehouse to meet the needs of the fire department and all of their equipment, et cetera. It included locating it on the exact site. It included expanding the existing site, and also included looking at alternate sites. And that study presented a lot of issues that really haven't been talked about by this board, certainly not the people on this board, but even this board in the last 5 or 6 years hasn't really discussed this. We've been, kind of researching what our options were. One of the options that came up was a piece of property that's immediately to the west of the existing firehouse, and we did purchase that, and it was purchased very early in March of 2020. And if you remember what was going on in the world at that time, we made the purchase, we did the closing on about March 9th of 2020, and we all basically just forgot about it. In other words, we put it off to the side. I don't mean forget. And so it hasn't been talked about. We need to resurrect this project. We need to get the firefighters working together with a professional to look back at some of the study work that was done, to better understand what we can put together as a plan to expand the firehouse. This doesn't mean the project's going to get done automatically. This doesn't mean that there's any plans out there that have been decided upon. In fact, this is really at the beginning stages. We did acquire the property, and that was kind of opportunistic at the time, but this is still at the beginning stages. And this hiring of a professional is to get that going so that we can start a conversation about this project. So I don't know if that was conveyed earlier, or but that's where we are on this project. So
I think the only other thing I'll add, Larry, is that the original project, the original study, I should say, came back with a very expensive proposal that didn't even accomplish everything that we need to accomplish. Like, the building obviously is old. It's not designed for the size of modern firefighting equipment and trucks. There's been a lot of changes to the regulations in firefighting over the years, as the types of fires they've even fought have changed. The way that the building itself is configured with where the firefighters change when they come, since they're volunteers, they come from work or school or home or whatever, change in the back. Like, that's not really OSHA approved to change behind where the trucks are, backing in and things like that. There's not proper shower facilities. There's there's not a million, but there are dozens of issues with the current layout. And there weren't easy fixes, unfortunately. So, this is, something I think that's long overdue. Hopefully the additional area that from the piece of property that we purchased will allow them to, come up with a more palatable plan economically, and as well as accomplishing all the things that are needed to, not to have a fancy firehouse, but to have a kind of OSHA compliant and an FPA compliant firehouse. So that's just a little more context. I'm actually excited to have this study done because it's something that, while I think moving the DPW and getting a nicer building for the DPW are definitely nice to have, this seems much more like a need to have, because there's definitely safety issues. The fire department's obviously worked around them and doing the best they can with their current building. And frankly, they've been, very patient with us as we've kind of worked through this slowly. To me, it was an exciting development when we bought the piece of property next to it. It showed our commitment to getting this resolved once and for all. So I'm hopeful that, this next stage, this next study can give us some viable alternatives and options.
So I did have one question, and my assumption is we're not going totally back to the drawing board, in the sense that the requirements, it was a pretty grueling process to pull together the original requirements. I assume that's the basis this new study will be working from.
that's correct. Yeah, they'll be pulling from all of the old information, which is still very relevant and useful, but they'll be pulling from that old information, but really just updating it and making sure that the needs would be met, and then providing us with some alternatives. This is, as the mayor said, there'll be plenty of conversations about this, but we need someone who knows what they're doing to get the conversation started. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, it has a pretty short delivery. I mean, it's going to be just under 6 months, right, for a deliverable, if I remember correctly. So we can't afford to go through the same extended process as as the initial gathering of requirements.
Correct.
And Larry, this is not the same company that did the first one?
It's not, no.
They were not available, correct?
Well, yeah, they weren't available. They were very good at what they did, and they were from, I think, the Albany area, if I recall. And we reached out to them first to try to re-engage and get them to move forward with this, but they just didn't have it in their schedule to accommodate that. So we're using a local architect. We're recommending, John Sullivan. We've worked with him before on other projects here very successfully, and we think he can get the conversation started again.
Great. Any other questions? Resolved to approve the consultant agreement with Sullivan Architecture PC for architectural services regarding renovation and expansion alternatives for the future Irvington Fire Department project, and authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is discussion on renaming the area in front of Village Hall as Madam C.J. Walker Plaza. I think this was something we first brought up 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was actually shortly after the renovation work was done at Village Hall that created a plaza. Before that, it was kind of, if you can remember back, there was kind of like a lot of growth and there wasn't a lot of room there. And then I remember Joe Archino from the rec during one of the tree lightings said, you know, we don't have that much room down in front of the rec center. Why don't we have the Main Street School singers go up into the plaza in front of Main Street and do the singing there? It was a lot safer because there's room for them and there's, you know, room for their parents on the sidewalk. And, you know, since that time, the area, the plaza, that sounds much nicer than the area, in front of Village Hall has become, you know, kind of a hub of activity for different things. You know, Mitch's band played there on Halloween. You know, for the Black Lives Matter rallies, for other rallies, it's been a focal point. It's literally the center of the village, as well as the center of our government, obviously. And it's just laid out well for, you know, events with 100 people or so. So, you know, my thought process was, you know, we haven't been able to rename anything or name anything for Madam C.J. Walker. We have talked about renaming Fargo Lane. The 5 residents on what I call South Fargo Lane, the southern part of Fargo Lane, didn't want to get rid of the Fargo Lane name. They were happy to put a secondary street naming there, which we are going to go ahead with. But I thought having, you know, Madam C.J. Walker's name grace our plaza on Main Street was a fitting tribute to her, her legacy. You know, someone earlier said that, you know, Black history isn't just Black history, it's all of our history. But you look at someone like Madam C.J. Walker, who you could make the case is, you know, women's history in the United States, it's Black history in the United States, but it's really just history in the United States. And, you know, in the 1920s, she chose Irvington of all the places she could have chosen to, you know, make her home. I think people thought she was a little bit out of her mind at the time because she was the only woman of color that would try to pull something off like that. It was far away from Harlem where she was based, but she wanted to have a house near where the other millionaires were, and she pulled it off. And it's one of those great stories. Obviously, there's been a Netflix special, there's been books written, but her legacy is still felt, you know, in business, you know, and she's an inspiration for so many people, including the new owners of Villa Luaro. So, you know, I think that, you know, we're lucky to have her, you know, that she chose us. And I think this is a great tribute to her. I think it will lead to discussions of people asking who she is that don't know. You know, I grew up here and I had barely, you know, I went all through schools in Irvington and I barely knew anything about her. When I graduated, she was more of a footnote than anything else. And I think recently she's been much more celebrated here. And I think this is the next, you know, piece of that recognition and celebration, as well as I just think it's going to be a very cool thing to say that, you know, the tree lighting is at, you know, Madam C.J. Walker Plaza, meet at Madam C.J. Walker Plaza for, you know, an event or a rally or whatever it is. It just, I think it's great to have a name for the plaza. And I can't think of a better, more fitting name than Madam C.J. Walker Plaza. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I wanted to get it done, you know, kind of early this year if we could, or I guess, you know, this is kind of the discussion. We can do a formal vote in January. Although I don't think there's any real rules on something like this, so we can kind of do whatever we want. I probably would have voted tonight. We discussed it I mentioned it at the last work session, but Mark wasn't there, so I wanted to give him an opportunity. My vision for it is just a plaque about, you know, that size that goes on the wall that juts out from Town Hall, kind of on towards Main Street at the right angle there. Just to put it, you know, the plaque, the actual plaque there that with the naming on it. You know, I think the concern when I brought this up, you know, 2 years ago and a year ago was that we didn't want to have a lot of, you know, plaques on Village Hall. I mean, I'll point out that there is a large one on Village Hall already, and there's another one on the wall I'm talking about. But I don't think that another plaque on that wall will in any way, impact the visual of Village Hall. It is an historic building, but I don't think this wall is particularly historic, and I think it's very appropriate. So those are my thoughts. I will open it up to my other board members to share their thoughts.
Well, Brian, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to feedback before holding a vote, but I think it's a great idea, and I'm more than happy to vote on it tonight because I think there's not a really good argument against, commemorating her in this manner and bringing some more focused visibility to the, civic center of the village.
I just wanted to also say that, with Vinnie Bagwell's statute, I think Vinnie's artwork is going to will bring a lot of attention to Main Street. And I think that having Madam C.J. Walker Plaza is a really nice complement to sort of the history, because she was the daughter of enslaved people. And I just think it is a really nice complement. Let's say, we're sort of acknowledging and the basically humanizing, right, people who throughout history have been ignored, and then to really celebrate somebody who really accomplished so much. I remember I learned about Madam C.J. Walker because my daughter Alyssa wrote a report, and she was flipping through some books. I don't really know how she found out about her because she didn't really learn in school about her. She sort of chose her to write about her, and then found out that her mansion was in Irvington, and she was so excited and really couldn't stop telling us about it for months. But I think it's really such an important and great story, and what she was able to accomplish. I think it's, Brian, you said it's like for women, for Black people, right? For us, like I think it really is a universal story and something that we should be proud of. And I think it's a great idea. 100% for it.
I agree with everything that Brian and Mark and Arlene said. One other angle on this that I think is pretty clear to me is I don't understand why this would ever be controversial, because villages all the time name things for the most well-known people in their village. And I think it'd be hard to make a case that anyone is more well-known than she is as far as our residents go right now in 2022. I mean, the length of history. And when you drive through the village, if you're driving on Route 9 through the village, the one thing you'll remember as you go through is that beautiful mansion right on Broadway. I mean, again, this is objectively speaking, it is one of the most prominent landmarks in the village, with one of the most successful people ever to live in the village. I don't think anyone else has had a Netflix movie made about them who lived in Irvington. So I don't really, I agree with everything that you guys said. This isn't an instead of, it's an and. Even if somebody, had problems with that for some reason, it's hard to argue with the fact that who else would you name it after in our history? This is really, I think, one of the most prominent people of the last, 140 years or whatever it's been. So 110 years. My math's not so great. So, but yeah, it's I think this is a no-brainer. I think this is a great thing. I think, or all the reasons that everyone already said, and also my reason on top of it. I think I can't imagine why anyone rational would be against this.
I think the only other thing I've heard is, well, there's other people we could honor, and I say sure, let us know who they are, and we'd be happy to consider it. So, but I don't think I can argue with anything anyone said. One of the items Larry mentioned was, we can definitely vote tonight, but I think what we were envisioning a little bit was maybe we could invite her great granddaughter Olivia Bundles, and maybe the current owners of the house, Richard Lou Dennis, and maybe his attorney that we talked to quite a bit, William James. We can also invite them back and let them know this happened, and show them the design of the plaque. We can, again, this is ceremonial, so there's no real right or wrong. In some ways, to me, if as Michael Hanna said, if there's going to be some kind of Facebook debate, maybe it's better just to have the vote over with, so there's no real debate. But to me, I'm also happy to hold off and invite them to our next meeting and vote then. This is more of a preference thing. I can go either way. Anyone have any strong thoughts?
I would say it's almost better to vote, because I think from my perspective, it's like a sort of a good faith thing. Like, we've done this, right? Not this is up for discussion, but.
And,
Like,
we can have them,
accompli-
we can have them come, we can present to them the fact that we've done it and show them the text of the plaque, I mean, it still can be, in a sense, an unveiling to them, and,
Yeah.
an inclusion for them, help.
And they would
help the
like to,
celebration.
they want to do the street renaming in the spring when the weather's better. I almost think we can go ahead and rename this, even put the plaque up, and then do a ceremonial unveiling of the plaque as well. So I don't think there's any reason to hold this up either, to be honest. So, but I think we should tell them, Larry, and if they want to come even speak at our next meeting and mention it or have thoughts for the plaque, we're open to that as well.
Sounds good.
All right. So should I make a motion to rename the area in front of Village Hall as Madam C.J. Walker Plaza? If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. That's done. Next up, report.
Now it has a name.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is great too, because there are so many events now that are held there. So it just, it seems very fitting. Reports of board, standing committees and trustees, trustee liaison reports. The update there is that I didn't send it this morning like I meant to, but I will send it either tonight or tomorrow morning. So you can have reports. I don't know if Larry Lonke, do you have a recreation department report?
Yes, a short report from Joe. Today, 50 senior citizens received holiday baskets, and on Wednesday, another 35 families in need and seniors will receive their baskets. 40 children and teens will also be receiving toys and gift cards. A total of 85 homes are being touched by our program this year. Thank you to everyone who donated to the special tradition. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone. This year's holiday tree lighting was held on Tuesday night, 12/14. Thanks to the Main Street School Choir for entertaining, and for the Irvington Fire Department and the Irvington Police Department for all their help. Special thanks to the Beautification Committee and the staff of the Rec and Parks Department for all their work in the village. There are many great programs for all ages online. Please consider joining. Short and sweet from Joe.
Great. And the tree lighting was in Madam C.J. Walker Plaza. Anybody else have anything they wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I just wanted to alert the board that unfortunately, the work session was hard on a lot of people to get to it. Both GTPF people that had committed to get into it or trying to get to it were not able to for various reasons. But they wanted me to let you know that they still are interested in providing feedback, especially on environmental concerns. So I mentioned that I would ask Larry if, when he comes up with the updates that you said you were going to make a list of what had been discussed at the meeting, maybe we could forward it to Leola and Nikki and give that group a chance to feedback as well.
Will do.
Thank you. I think the other thing is just that, I'll supply some feedback in writing too to share with everyone, but what I would like to see, and I don't know if there is, I didn't see a discussion on the recording, but Larry, do you have a timeline when you envision this, to be completed? I know there was several remarks about how we have a in-depth word by word, period by comma edit session, but after that, is that like envisioned for January as a work session or what?
Yeah, I think I'll circulate a draft around. You can comment on it offline, And then we can come back to a meeting, discuss any last minute changes to it, and then hopefully get adopted sometime in January. That's what the plan is.
Village Administrator's report.
I was actually going to comment on the tree lighting, but Trustee Lonke took that on me. So it was very nice. And the fire department transported Santa up and down Main Street. So it was very nice. Well done.
It was actually a lot of fun seeing the kids' reactions to Santa.
Yeah, it's great. Priceless.
The village clerk treasurer's report.
My only announcement is that village taxes, the second half is due on December 31st. That's this Friday. And there are several ways people can pay taxes. What's becoming very popular is online payments. We encourage that, as well as by mail. It would have to be postmarked by the U.S. Postal Service by December 31st. And there's also a drop box. It's a secure drop box in the vestibule, right when you open the door. So we have those methods, and we just want to remind everyone of the due date. That's it.
Great. Village attorney's report. And public comment. We have a hand raised, either Nina Caparel Dawson or John Dawson. Like we wrote, we never know. And Eric Gooley. So we'll start with Nina or John.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So Brian, I want to address the Madam C.J. Walker Plaza because I have some other people whom I think should be considered.
Okay.
I think one of the people that should be considered for naming the plaza is Wilford Lockwood. Wilford Lockwood was a lifelong resident. He was a World War I vet. He was a Cub Scout leader. He was a member of the President and Board of Education. He was a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Board. He was Kiwanis Citizen of the Year in 1962. He was a trustee of the Irvington Presbyterian Church. 1952 to 69, Mr. Lockwood served as the village historian, where he amassed a vast collection of local history, which is now housed in the Irvington Public Library Local History Room. And he literally archived all aspects of Irvington life, which later appeared in Wolfert's Roost, the book. Former Mayor Peter Pizer, upon Mr. Lockwood's passing, wrote, "Here is a unique man, not only measured in the world as we know it today, but at any point in our history, he taught hundreds of children and adults of our community the history of Irvington. All who had the privilege of hearing him could not help but tell it was a wonderful thing to be a part of this village." Another person I think should be considered is Adele Warnock. Adele was a lifelong village resident. She served as deputy mayor. She was village trustee. She too was member and president of the Board of Education. She held leadership positions in the Youth Center, the PTA, Friends of the Library. She was officer and trustee of the Irvington Historical Society. She was Woman of the Year in 1980. The village boards of trustees established the Adele Warnock Good Citizenship Award, which from 1999 to 2012 was presented to a village resident who exemplified her commitment to Irvington. And the Irvington Village website states, Adele Warnock is the personification of the actively engaged citizen, unselfishly serving institutions and organizations which enhanced and enriched the community life in the village she so deeply loved. These two individuals had deep ties to this village, and their contributions influenced the lives of generations of Irvington residents. To name the plaza after either of them or both would truly honor their legacy to our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just in addition to that, the reason you didn't hear this before, she was not called on before you took your vote to make this statement that she just made.
Okay.
That wasn't me.
That sounded more like John.
That's close.
Thank you. Thank you both. Eric Gooley.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wanted to speak and speak in in support of the naming of the plaza, the Madame C.J. Walker Plaza. I grew up in Irvington. I live here now. My father was the village historian for many years, and he was president of the Historical Society for a good stretch of time also, and very involved with the Historical Society. And I've been aware of this landmark since I can remember. And that's been on the radar of a lot of people in Irvington for decades and decades and decades. He would be absolutely thrilled with your vote tonight. I remember him being really upset when he would see the previous owners making any sort of changes to the property before it was on the National Historic Register. And he'd always tell me that he wanted to possibly get that structure for, to be a museum or, to use it for teaching purposes, because he recognized the story of Madame C.J. Walker as being so incredibly significant to not only Irvington history, but obviously American history. So I just think it's a fantastic decision, and I applaud you. And I just think it's so incredibly fitting that she's honored in this site in the place where villagers gathered during the last couple of years, during really significant times, that I think are significant times in American history. So I applaud you. And one thing that I would like to add is to have you consider having the village sponsor a written history of her life in Irvington and her life, so that we could put, say, a QR code on the plaque, some way for people to access a much longer description of her contribution to, American history and Irvington history. And I think it'd be a great idea to sponsor some, to get a local history writer or someone to write that history, so that we can have that forever in our village. So I thank you again. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I also think that the two people that Nina mentioned, I think it'd be wonderful to honor those people. I know the history of both of those people, and I know I would love to have them recognized in some way in the village. So thank you very much, and have a great night.
Thank you very much. Michael Hanna?
Hey, it's a really productive evening for you. Great work. I was excited to see you approve the memorandum of agreement with the IPD. That's always great news when it comes together like you described, Mr. Mayor. So congratulations to everyone involved in that process. And I spoke on it earlier, but I just wanted to follow up. I shared a little bit of text about Madam C.J. Walker. Thank you so much for approving the naming of the plaza, but I'll just share it for anybody who would watch this in the future. A lot of folks know a bit about her history, but she was born in the South in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War and worked as a washerwoman for many years in St. Louis before developing a hair care product that can be sold and provided work for African-American women throughout the United States. By the time she chose to make Irvington her home, which I think was around 1916, 17 when they started to build the home, she was already a leader in her national business, in charities and political activism. She wrote about her love of gardening at her new home in Irvington, and also made the home a center in which she invited social and political luminaries to support Black World War I veterans as they returned to the United States, and to fight against the awful wave of racist lynchings that plagued the United States. So she's a remarkable national and historical figure, and she lived here in Irvington, and I think you did the right thing by naming the plaza after her. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Action items, Larry? I didn't really have anything.
Just two items. One is it's actually not my item, it's Brenda's item, the insurance we'll follow up on for the statue. And the priorities, when the new draft is circulated, we'll make sure it gets into the hands of the GPTF.
Great. So I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session regarding a real estate matter. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. We'll see you in 2022. Bigger and better.
Thank you all. You have the separate link for the executive session, correct?
Bye-bye. Yep.
All right. See you.